Have you ever felt like your favorite chair has become a trap? For Arthur, at 75 years old, this old leather armchair wasn't just a piece of furniture anymore. It was a daily reminder of something he was quietly losing. After a satisfying dinner, he would settle into its familiar comfort, the worn leather sighing under his weight. But then, an hour later, the simple act of getting up became a negotiation. It wasn't just a grunt. It was the sound of a battle Arthur was slowly losing against his own body, 3 times a day. He would plant his hands firmly on the armrests, rock back and forth once, twice, and then heave himself upward with an effort that left him breathless. This small, private struggle was a secret he kept from his family, but his body was telling a story he couldn't ignore. Science suggests that after the age of 50, we can lose up to 1% of our muscle mass every single year. That doesn't sound like much, does it? But by the time you're 75, that could mean a quarter of your strength has silently vanished. It vanishes when you stoop to pick up a toy for your grandchild and feel a twinge in your back. It vanishes when you find yourself unable to open that stubborn jar of pickles. It vanishes in the hesitation you feel before climbing a simple set of stairs. For Arthur, it vanished every evening in that comfortable, unforgiving chair. He just thought this was a normal part of aging, an inevitable decline he had to accept. But what if he was wrong? What if the key to fighting back wasn't in a gym or in some complicated exercise program? What if the secret to reclaiming his strength was hidden in the 5 minutes he had right after he finished his meal? Stay with me as I share Arthur's incredible story of rediscovery. It's a story that might just change the way you look at your own daily habits forever. The Sugar Storm Revelation. One evening, while his wife was clearing the dinner plates, Arthur was flipping through channels on the television. He landed on a health program. A doctor, a woman with a kind and serious face, was talking about health for seniors. Arthur was only half listening until she said something that made him put the remote down. The expert said, "For a senior, sitting right after a meal is like sending a flood of sugar into your bloodstream with no fire department to control it." She continued, "Your muscles are the fire department, but you've told them to stay in the station." A sugar flood. The image struck Arthur with surprising force. He looked down at his comfortable belly, then over at his armchair, waiting for him. Suddenly, a lifetime of habit felt like a lifetime of mistakes. Let me explain what was happening inside Arthur's body, and what might be happening inside yours. When you eat a meal, especially one with carbohydrates, your body breaks it down into glucose, which is sugar. This glucose enters your bloodstream to be used as fuel. This is perfectly normal. But if you immediately sit down and stay still, that fuel has nowhere to go. The largest muscles in your body, the ones in your legs and glutes, are the biggest consumers of this sugar fuel. When you sit, you effectively shut them off. So, the sugar piles up in your blood, creating a sugar storm. Your body then releases insulin to manage this storm, and its primary job is to get that sugar out of the blood, often by storing it as fat. Studies published in the respected journal Sports Medicine now show that just a simple 2 to 5 minute walk after a meal can significantly flatten that sugar spike. It helps your body use the fuel you've just given it, instead of storing it. But the doctor on the show mentioned something else, something that truly hit home for Arthur. She talked about a condition called anabolic resistance. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple and powerful. Imagine your muscles are like houses, and the protein you eat is a team of repair workers. When you're younger, these workers can easily open the front door of the muscle houses and get to work, fixing and building. But as we get older, the front doors to these houses get a bit stuck. This is anabolic resistance. The repair workers are there, but they have a harder time getting inside to do their job. And here is the crucial part that Arthur had been missing his whole life. If you sit still after eating, those doors stay mostly shut. The repair workers just mill about, unable to get in. But a little bit of gentle movement, a short walk, that's the key that unlocks the door. Movement tells the muscle to open up and let the protein in. Arthur realized with a sinking feeling that for decades, he had been serving his body a wonderful meal full of protein, and then, immediately locking the doors to his muscles. He wasn't just resting. He was starving his muscles of the very thing they needed to stay strong. He was, in essence, putting his strength to sleep 3 times a day, every day. That night, Arthur didn't go to his armchair. He stood in the quiet of his kitchen, the doctor's words echoing in his mind, and he knew he had to make a change. The 100-step journey. Arthur didn't decide to run a marathon or join a gym. He knew that if he made a goal that was too big, he would fail. He needed something so simple, so achievable, that he couldn't make an excuse. So he made a promise to himself. He called it the 100-step promise. He didn't aim for 5 minutes. His promise was simpler, just 100 steps. From the dinner table, to the sink, to place his dish, a slow walk around the kitchen island and back to his chair. That was it. The first few days it felt like a chore. After a lifetime of sinking into his chair after dinner, his body resisted. His mind told him it was silly. What good can 100 little steps possibly do? It whispered. He felt the pull of the comfortable chair, the desire for stillness. But he honored his promise. He counted each step. 1, 2, 3. All the way to 100. That was the first week. He called it the chore phase. By the second week, something shifted. The 100 steps became less of a conscious decision and more of an automatic reflex. Finish eating, stand up, start walking. He didn't have to think about it anymore. The habit was starting to form. He found his 100 steps were taking him a little further now. He'd walk to the back door and look out at his neglected garden. He started to notice things he hadn't in a long time. This was the habit phase. By the third week, another change occurred. The 100 steps were no longer a limit, but a starting point. He found himself walking out onto the back porch, breathing in the cool evening air. He felt the food in his stomach settle more comfortably. The sluggish, heavy feeling he always had after a meal was beginning to disappear. 100 steps became 200. 200 steps became a slow, gentle walk around his small garden. It wasn't a workout. It was a ritual, a small act of defiance against the stillness that had been slowly stealing his life away. He started noticing the evening birdsong again. He felt the cool air on his skin. He wasn't just moving his legs, he was moving his soul. He was choosing movement over comfort for just a few minutes. And this small, simple choice, repeated day after day, was about to lead to some very big victories. The small victories. The first time it happened, Arthur didn't even notice. It was about 2 months into his new ritual. He had finished his lunch, taken his walk around the garden, and came inside to read the newspaper. He sat in his armchair for an hour, lost in the day's events. When he finished, he simply folded the paper, placed it on the table, and stood up. Just like that. No rocking, no grunting, no pushing off the armrests. He was halfway to the kitchen when he stopped dead in his tracks. He looked back at the chair as if it were a defeated opponent. A slow smile spread across his face. It was the first time in years he had risen from that chair without a thought. That was the first small victory. But soon, they started coming one after another. One Tuesday, he went to the grocery store. Usually, it was a dreaded trip, ending with him making 3 or 4 trips from the car, carrying one light bag at a time. But this time, he carried all 6 grocery bags from the car to the kitchen in one single trip. He stood in the kitchen for a moment, his heart pounding not from strain, but from a forgotten feeling of pride. It was a small thing, but it felt monumental. The biggest victory happened a few weeks later. His 5-year-old granddaughter was visiting. She was playing on the floor with her dolls when she looked up at him, her eyes bright. "Grandpa, can you be the giant?" she asked. In the past, he would have said, "Grandpa's back is a little sore today, sweetie." But this time, he didn't hesitate. He let out a playful roar, swooped down, and lifted her into the air. The sound of her squealing laughter was the sweetest music he had ever heard. He held her there, strong and steady, and in that moment, he felt like the most powerful man in the world. These moments weren't miracles. They were the result of biology. By consistently opening the door to his muscles after every meal, Arthur was slowly but surely letting the repair workers back in. He was fighting back against the silent thief of sarcopenia. He was winning the war against muscle loss, one meal at a time. Arthur realized he hadn't just rebuilt his muscles. He had rebuilt his confidence. He had won back his independence. And the price of this incredible gift? Just a few minutes, stolen back from the stillness after each meal. The takeaway and the connection. Arthur's story teaches us a profound lesson. The biggest threats to our independence are often the quiet habits we never question. And the most powerful solutions are often the small steps we decide to take, consistently. It wasn't a magic pill or an expensive machine that gave Arthur his life back. It was a choice. The choice to stand up when it was easier to sit. The choice to move when his body wanted to rest. Arthur's story isn't just about him. It's about the power that lies hidden in our smallest daily choices. The power to rewrite our own story of aging. Arthur discovered the power of the 5 minutes after his meals, but what he learned next was just as powerful. A simple 3-minute routine he could do before his morning coffee to awaken the muscles in his legs. I share that exact routine in our next video. You can click the link on the screen or in the description to watch it now. But before you go, I want to hear from you. What is the one small activity you've started to find difficult that you wish you could do effortlessly again? Share your story with us below. Let's support each other on this journey. The information in this video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice.